Thank you. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Veronica, for your fantastic meditations. They are um, always the thing as far as pointing out the right direction for me. I love them, and I love you. So, okay, um, I'm going to begin my my hour talk, and I'm going to continue on with what I've been doing. Hi, Veronica, and and this is called a the teaching is called the Cosmic History Chronicles, and there are 7 books that are in this series, and I am on the first one. And so a short little synopsis. I've This is my 4th show doing this book, and so if anyone is curious about the Cosmic History Chronicles, they are on YouTube. All of the books are on YouTube as far as videos are concerned, except the first one. The first one is in there, but it is in Spanish first for some reason and not in English. Do not know what the logic is. But the first book is called the Book of Throne, and if anyone wants to back up and look at or listen to my previous shows, they are on my YouTube channel called Tom Vargas. And so if you missed something, and if you want to catch up, and if there's things that you aren't understanding what I'm going to be talking about, you can always back up and go take a look at there. So anyways, the last 3 shows were basically the introduction and the preface and the forward. So now we are finally going to start on chapter 1. And chapter 1 is called What is Cosmic History? Okay, cosmic history is the core of the universal field of intelligence. The premise of cosmic history is that this universal field of intelligence has not been accurately known in this present time. For this reason, there has to be the reformulation of the construct of knowledge in the world. We are dealing with a complete world construct. In fact, we could say that the entire way in which the everyday world on this planet is presented to the human through its senses is somehow inadequate, wrong, and incorrect. Okay, so that's the first paragraph. And to me, where he is saying that cosmic history is the core of the universal field of intelligence, to me, this means awareness. And as in my concept of awareness, awareness is everything. Nothing would exist without awareness. It all had to start with awareness. To start with awareness, imagining all that is. And so, cosmic history deals with this universal field of intelligence. And the premise of cosmic history that this universal field of intelligence has not been accurately known in this present time, to me, is that this is new, un I don't know if I want to say undiscovered, but unpublished or unknown, um, and also in this present time because it is constantly evolving. So it's a different spin, a different thinking of how to articulate the the total history of the universe. And it, to me, when if I'm looking at this through a course perspective, it's let's say this is going to start right at the tiny mad idea where that crept into the field of perfection, and then that was the start of the formation of matter and the physical and the separation from pure spirit. And I can equate cosmic history as pretty much that. But in the cosmic history, they take it even further into, you know, more and more dimensions of tiny mad ideas of, it's like a cycle, and it just isn't like we're just in this cycle of the tiny mad idea in this particular time till where the what he calls involution, the formation of matter, to the evolution is which when we go back and return to spirit, which is very Course in Miracles like. Okay, so the next sentence: for this reason there has to be the reformation of the construct of knowledge in the world. We're dealing with a complete world construct is kind of what I was alluding to. It's not just some thought systems just deal with certain things like it's like certain religions and certain thought systems or philosophies or whatever, but this is dealing with the whole enchilada. In fact, we could say that the entire way in which everyday world on this planet is presented to the human thought and sense is somehow inadequate, wrong, and incorrect. And basically, we could just say this is the ego thought system, and that is why we are in a process of evolving into what is the perfection that the Course in Miracles talks about. Okay, then the next paragraph. Of course, it is hard for anyone who has known nothing but this inadequate, incorrect worldview to understand that there could be anything beyond it, or even that there might be anything wrong with this particular construct. This is the basic issue that we are dealing with at this point. Cosmic history is actually a template or a superior overlay of a comprehensive understanding that is intended to replace the entire world construct that exists today. Okay, so the first part is basically saying we don't know what we don't know. And if there isn't any reason to really reach out for anything new, we're not really going to go and try to pursue something that we don't know. It's kind of like when we come into a point of crisis where the old way of functioning and dealing with our lives doesn't work anymore, is when we start reaching out and we become willing to accept new knowledge to deal with our lives in a more constructive way. And so he says a lot in the next sentence that cosmic history is actually a template or a superior overlay of a comprehensive understanding that is intended to replace the entire world construct that exists today. So basically he's saying this is going to replace everything that exists today in as far as everything is concerned, the way we look at it scientifically, spiritually, historically, everything. So that's a big order of what cosmic history intends to do. And so I imagine that's why we need 7 volumes of these books to do that. But like the past shows, what I have been saying and what I have been experiencing is this is very intelligent, very organized in a, let's say, a Course in Miracles way, in a spiritual, all the spiritual constructs that I've known, and I think it aligns very much with what the Awakening Together radio show is all about. But it is a different way of approaching anything that I've ever read before, but I wouldn't be attempting to present it if I did not think that it was aligning and expanding on all the teachings that I know of. Okay, so the next paragraph, when we talk about the world construct of knowledge, we are talking about the construct that performs absolutely everything that is experienced in the world, particularly, okay, and I want to rephrase this, particularly but not limited to, but he's going to address particularly through what we might call the public media. The journals, the newspapers, the television, the internet, the radio, and most forms of public education. In other words, all the different ways in which information is currently conveyed and communicated to the world at large is perceptually incorrect, wrong, or inadequate. But we might say that if cosmic history is the core of the universal field of intelligence, then why has it not previously been known? This is what this chapter will elucidate. That's a new word for me, elucidate. But I think all of us can agree with that last paragraph of how biased and twisted and how slanted the point of views of what we watch on TV is. Even if we go to our Facebook, and then everyone has their point of view of how things should be, especially in this political season. I mean, it is like really crazy we have 2 presidential candidates who are being accused of like the craziest things, like criminals or whatever, I mean, it's like even criminals don't get that much condemnation and everything. And these 2 are supposed to be, one of them is supposed to be our president. Even one is threatening, inciting someone to kill the other one. It's nuts. But that's what we do. That's what the you turn on the television, and that's what's going around. Our society is eating it up, living it, believing it, and reacting to it, and that is the field of intelligence that the society, and I would not just say the United States, but I think it's pretty much true in whatever country, whoever. I think someone had said something. Whoever owns the press or whatever controls the masses, or something. Something to that effect is what I heard, and I imagine that's probably true all over the world. Okay, so when we talk about prevailing, dominating structure of the world, we're talking about the information and intelligence structure that pervades and dominates what we call industrialized nations of the world. The nations that are responsible for the elaboration of what is referred to as the technosphere, or the Earth's artificial industrial technological sheath. The global field of the technosphere is an artificial construct based on machine consciousness and marketing gimmicks. Okay, so they have a definition of the technosphere in the glossary. So let me read, go to the glossary and read that so we have a better idea of what the technosphere is. Okay, technosphere. Earth's artificial industrial technological sheath that negates natural time and higher consciousness. Global sphere of an artificial construct based on machine consciousness and marketing gimmicks, I guess. So it's pretty much what I just finished reading. And so what I gather out of this, when they call the industrial technological sheath, to me it's a race consciousness of the and I'm trying to think of a better way to talk about industrialized. Probably a better way, or a way I would define it, would be a concept of time is money and profit is the order of the day, and all of our industries and everything are all geared towards making that profit. And when he's talking about marketing gimmicks, all we have to do is turn the TV on, and we have all the commercials trying to make us believe that that we should identify ourselves with these products. So, meaning that if I buy this car, then I'm going to have this identity of a happy guy with a good-looking girl driving around in this car. Same thing with clothes or food or drugs. Like you take this drug or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're happy and normal and all that. Okay, so that's what I gather out of this. Okay, next paragraph. When we think about the technosphere and the dominant worldview, which negates time and consciousness, we have to understand that there is a whole huge single mental order that is constantly talking to itself. In other words, when you read a newspaper editorial, it is really only the mind talking to itself. When you watch a news program or read the news on the internet, it is still just the mind talking to itself. Because who is reading or watching it but the mind that created it? This is fundamental point to grasp. Okay, so it really does think that this is a fundamental point to grasp. What I see in this paragraph about this huge single mental order that is constantly talking to itself is ego consciousness. Is the ego projects out what it wants, and that is reflected back to it in terms of what it believes is going to fulfill itself, and it is a vicious circle of projection without any kind of spiritual observation or intelligent observation. So this to me would be the automatic pilot behavior that I live pretty much all my life. Is just is being influenced by all the images and all of the commercialization, and believing because I don't have this, then I'm less than. And it's just an ego thought system that is in its own loop. And so I do really like the way that that he does put this, is that it's still just the mind talking to itself, because there's no truth in it. It's just an illusion. Okay, let me take a sip here. When we look at to whom and how this current worldview is being presented, we see that there are fundamental premises that are completely erroneous. The first premise is that there are only individual units of consciousness. Therefore, there is no consciousness of understanding of the noosphere. Okay, let's go to the definition of noosphere. Earth's mental envelope or thinking layer. Storage and regulation unit of the sum of mental interactions, past, present, and future of all terrestrial life, both in the phenomenal and imaginal realms. Next stage of human evolution, scene of super mental activation and super mental descent. So all of that, what that means to me is pretty much the Akashic records. And when he says the next stage of human evolution, scene or super activation of super mental descent, to me that's the fourth dimensional spirit dimension that we are evolving to from the body, as the Course tells us we are not bodies, into the spiritual realization of who we really are. Okay, so I guess I can go over the first couple sentences. Okay. The first premise is that there are only individual units of consciousness, therefore there is no consciousness or understanding of the noosphere. So this is pretty much saying that is the ego belief systems that we are bodies, that I am separate and apart from everyone and everything, and then everything that I see is a separate unit, non-connected to anything. And so this is our material consciousness or ego consciousness that only knows separation. It has no understanding of the noosphere, which is the connectivity of everything, and all things. Okay. So he's saying that individual units of consciousness is completely erroneous. The noosphere is the Earth's mental envelope or the thinking layer of the Earth. It can be understood as a storage unit for the sum of all mental interactions of all of life, both in the phenomenal and the imaginal realms. It sounds like it is a field of all possibilities, which is spirit. Okay. Lack of knowledge of the noosphere, which means to me the ego consciousness that is only defined by individual bodies. Okay, lack of knowledge of the noosphere, along with the psi bank regulator, is the primary fault of the prevailing dominating structure that governs perceptions of the world today. This is due to the fact that the whole biosphere, the sphere of life and its support system, is actually run and operated by the noosphere. So this is everything that is connected by intelligence. The noosphere is the intelligence that supports the biosphere, which is our environment, our plants, our water, us. Okay, now the psi bank can be understood as the regulating mechanism, control panel, or nervous system of the noosphere. Located between the two Van Allen radiation belts, the major components of Earth's electromagnetic field. The psi bank is instrumental to the fourth dimensional timing factor of which the Maya were highly aware. This fourth dimensional timing factor regulates the DNA, which includes all the stages of evolution and the process of mutation of life on Earth. And this way, the psi bank serves as a filing cabinet where registrations of fourth dimensional time are deposited. This will be expanded upon later in subsequent volumes. I hope so. Okay, so what I get out of this is that the psi bank regulator is what is the timing of evolution. So where we are at right now, if the psi bank regulator would go haywire for some reason and involve our consciousness too quickly, we would all go nuts. It'd be too much to handle. And this is something that Veronica says in her talks all of the time. It would be too much for us to handle. So this regulates the process of evolution, so it comes and occurs in a orderly, doable manner. So which brings me to the point about where we are at in our place in evolution. You know, 1,000 years ago, there's a lot of things that we didn't know in our development, and all of that, as we could see, it all took time. There was development upon development upon development upon development, and so this is I like to think that this is what is happening to our development from going from the material and the ego consciousness into the spiritual consciousness. It's something that is going to take time. It has to be evolved into. And myself, for the longest time, would take things very personal, because thinking that I should be able to snap my fingers and realize that I'm not a body, and get to the point and the realization that I'm not a body just right away, and all of a sudden I'm going to have that realization that I don't have any ego beliefs. And so for me, by realizing, and this is just my opinion, I'm sure there are others out there that think that they could still, as that they could evolve within this lifetime, where they're not going to have any ego thoughts, and it's going to be, I'm not saying that it's impossible to have a happy dream, but I think what I'm saying is, to live a happy dream is regulated by how quick that we're able to do it. And as we get further along, this also allows for avatars like Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad to come in into this whole system. It's just like I'm not one of them. So what that did for me is that it helped me not to take things personally, to not to think that there's something wrong with me because I'm not getting it supposedly. I'm not evolving to where I can shut my ego off just like that, you know. And God knows I've tried everything, you know, the meditation, the course. I mean, you know it, everything. But you know, I still have my challenges about, you know, even sometimes like somebody cutting me off on the freeway or whatever. You know, I still can get triggered and pulled into. So to me, what this is that it is it's an evolutionary process, and I believe all of us are all in it. Everybody that we see is challenged by ego consciousness, and the more that I have compassion and patience with myself, I'm able to have compassion and patience for everyone, because I know that there is no one that I can expect not to be functioning from the ego belief system. We all are to one extent of the or any other. And I'm not saying that I don't see the divinity in them first. I do. But I also know, and I'm to be realistic, that I can't expect anyone to live up to that divine quality that they are in essence and truly are. And that's why we have the Course in Miracles and we have something like this, because we have got work to do to evolve into it. And I like the fact that this agrees with the Course in Miracles, because the Course says this is a required course. This saying the same thing. We're going to evolve into it. There is no two ways about it. We are going to evolve if we like it or not. And what we are going through is a process that everyone's going to go through. And I imagine it's not going to be easy for any of us. So, having said that, that is the Cybank regulator. Okay, up until now, the entire biosphere has been unconsciously governed by the noosphere. It is important to understand that the mind that is talking to itself is actually the noosphere, the mental sphere of intelligence on the planet. But because it does not know it is in the noosphere, it is speaking in a very cramped and provincial way, operating with a limited belief system and an assumed set of reference points. The most fundamental premise of this ant scale point of view is the materialism is not only good, but it is the only viable form of reality. This point of view holds the notion that the world is purely a physical construct, and therefore we as human beings are purely physical constructs. Okay, so in short is that the awareness is part of the noosphere, because awareness is awareness, and we are aware. Even if we're in the ego thought system, we still have awareness, but we do not know that we are awareness. We are not universal awareness. That awareness is awareness is. And so this is just reinforcing the point of the ego consciousness of separation. And he says that this point of view holds the notion that the world is purely a physical construct, and therefore we as human beings are purely physical constructs. Okay. In this physicalist worldview, the purpose of life is to make material accommodation of this phenomenal construct as comfortable as possible. Whatever impinges on that comfort and creates discomfort is to be fought, and whatever furthers discomfort is to be aided and abetted. This is a fundamental, unspoken, unconscious premise of everything that occurs as information in the present construct of the knowledge of the world, which can be viewed as an information feedback loop or the mind talking to itself. So basically what he's saying, if we look at any kind of commercials, advertisement, we see a premise of discomfort, and we see a product that is going to take away that discomfort, because the premise is what he is saying in the ego thought system. Anything that brings us any kind of unease, the ego thought system is to immediately find something to project, to blame, to find a solution to relieving that stress of the unease, especially of the ego thought system. The ego thought system in itself is very, very uncomfortable. You know, I mean, shoot, I mean that's why, alcohol and drugs and all that, is just like, the ego loves that kind of stuff, just to take away the unease, or even shopping, or the whole gamut of addictions and all that is to get rid of the unease. Okay. What the mind is continuously doing is shoring up its own beliefs, which is an absolutely fundamental, materialistic, unquestioned, unspoken belief system of the physical nature of reality and being. In this construct of the world, what we refer to as religion or religious ideas are merely ideas which are evaluated again according to the degree to which they further physical comfort or create physical discomfort. This is the prevailing dominant construct. So the religion definitely has a role in alleviating the ego thought system of guilt and us believing that we are not good enough and not worthy, and the whole shot, those. And so I'll leave it at that. Within the dominant construct that you might call the mind of the planetary human that talks to itself, there are more or less alien constructs. The most alien form of construct is the form that seems to attack itself. This is usually referred to as terrorism, which at its root is an ideology that does not seem to seek physical comfort. These are all forms of justification for furthering a particular dominance in the world. So this terrorism that he's talking about, we see it acted out on, or projected out, and especially recently on blaming a world that attacks the individual ego thought system. And so this is basically the same thing of us when we feel like we're a victim of the world, and we project, and we feel like we're attacked, but we project it out on whatever's out in front of us, and we project it out like this is causing my discomfort. And so we make up this terrorism. We have a world out there that's terrorizing us in every kind of form, to someone cutting us off in the freeway. That guy is terrorizing me. That guy is attacking me. So what he's saying, what he's drawing attention to is our projections in the world, and it's being acted out as terrorism. When we are describing what we are describing is the matrix that holds the whole present world order in place. Wherever you go and with whomever you speak, everyone to some degree or another is caught up in this world construct. Like I had said before, we are all caught up in the ego thought system in one way or the other, or not one way or the other, to a lesser degree or more degree. If you go into stores, all the shopkeepers are caught up in the construct by involving themselves in a system of furthering material goods or material comfort, while they themselves are simultaneously caught in a web of needing to seek material comfort, and so on. Okay, I'll just go on to the next paragraph. That's pretty self-explanatory. This materialism is by far the greatest force and greatest factor that has kept the human mind in an increasingly diminished state of consciousness. In other words, the mind's sensory parameters keep being shrunk down to a pure physicalistic survival mode of thinking. This type of thinking is fed by the entertainment industry, which creates a type of imaginal realm. When you look behind all the images and characters and archetypes of this imaginal realm, particularly those of the film or pulp fiction industries, you see that all the entertainment industry seems to be based on the degree to which the physicalist comforts are being furthered, or whether fear is being created about losing them. Then there is a fringe entertainment element which is provoked by a type of spiritual hopelessness or despair, or some type of spiritual optimism which is relatively limited in the actual sphere of global influence. So there, I would probably say our course community, or in this awakening together, as we are out on the fringe of this global influence. Um, and I think everything up there is pretty much that I just finished reading is pretty um, self-explanatory. When you go to the movies, it's about the ego coming out on top, ego struggling for its individual good, whatever that may be, and comes out victorious or not. But it is a common theme of everything from down to I used to watch Bonanza. I used to love Bonanza, but it was all like Haas and Little Joe coming out on top of these dilemmas, and and at the end of it, we were all good, and we go back and have a nice dinner from I forgot the Chinese guys, the Hop Sing cooking up a dinner and all that, and we're all back in our comfortable state of mind. Okay, we are just painting a general picture of the present state of the human mental field, which is a primitive shadow of the noosphere. It is but a mental construct that, through the technosphere, surrounds the world and is furthered through the planetary global information media, television, radio, internet, etc. This system of thought is transmitted instantaneously all the time around the planet through these artificial technospheric communications media. This is what makes the system of thought like a primitive shadow of the noosphere. Though it surrounds the world, it is primitive because it is not the noosphere, or rather, it is the noosphere unconscious of itself, which is the ego consciousness that is not conscious of anything but its own needs, its own self. And I can't really say that this whole internet thing is really a terrible thing, because that I think is something that we have a choice in, just like everything else. And I've been able to have access to a lot of teachings, such as what I'm doing right now, such as the Course in Miracles, because of the internet and the connectivity, and also of all of the other non-dual thought systems and non-dual teachers. And so I believe probably that he is right, that probably maybe the majority of the intent is probably the ego thought system. But I also believe that there is a lot of good and productive also mixed in with that, and I just thought I'd throw my 2 cents in about that part. Okay. It must be understood that the present mental construct of the world is a complete umbrella that encompasses the entire planet. From the point of view of the law and time, this umbrella is a functional of a type of erroneous thinking that at its root creates a fundamental misconception of not only what and who we are, but what the earth is and what we are doing on earth. If you dig down to the root of this misperception, above and beyond, it's being furthered by the mechanistic timing frequency. At the root of it lies a question: do you have belief in a soul or not? And how I can speak to this in being caught up in this materialistic world. When I had my own business, it was all about um, going to work and getting things right, making the profit, and buying this and buying that, and having the big house and all of that. And that is what I was doing on Earth, and that was my purpose on Earth. And I just got caught up in that, and really didn't have any reason to get out of it. It was a mechanical thing, and I was very comfortable. But when it came down to, do I have a belief in a soul or not, to tell you the truth, I really did not have a time to really consider that until, the economy took a dump over there and lost everything. But I have to say that was probably the best thing that happened to me, because it opened me up to realizing that this is not the way to live. It is, I mean, it could be taken away, and it was taken away at any moment. And so I realized I can't base my life on this. And so learned the hard way, but I learned, and thank God. Okay. And if you do have a belief in the soul, then do you have belief in the fact that the memory of God is inscribed in the soul? This is the absolute root of the misperception of who and what we are. Either there is some type of fundamental belief in the memory of God inscribed in the soul, or there isn't. Or there is a denial of it, or a total hypocrisy regarding it. If there is a belief in the memory of God inscribed in the soul, then the sole purpose of life is to remember God and to get back to the soul, that pure place where you can read the inscribed words that God has placed in your heart. So this is the journey back. The journey back is to get out of the material ego consciousness and have that memory of God, which is love, that is inscribed in our soul. Get back to that recognition of it, which is also the purpose of the Course in Miracles, removing the blocks so that who we are spiritually can be revealed to us. And what cosmic history calls that is that God has that place in our heart as our souls. Okay, if you can pursue this, then you are pursuing a life of God. This is a fundamental disparity from the materialistic point of view. This belief is actually at the root of what is called fundamentalism. Yet most fundamentalism, Yet most fundamentalism becomes a closed system and comes at odds with a dominant materialistic belief system, and so creates a lot of the conflicts that exist in the world today. Okay, so our closed systems of, let's say, politics or religion just incorporates that materialistic belief system within it, incorporates it, and it makes it so hard to get out of it. We ask We might ask, why does the memory of God become inverted into a type of fundamentalism? This again has to do with a deeper root, which is what we refer to as a lack of knowledge of the noosphere. In other words, in the present construct of world knowledge, we are dealing with belief systems where there is a multitude layering or levels of what we might call erroneous or inadequate, if not incorrect thinking. Again, the most fundamental problem up to this point on our planet today is a lack of full knowledge of the noosphere. This is actually an evolutionary problem. Up until now, the noosphere could not be fully realized, so even the best spiritual belief systems are somewhat provincial because they develop their beliefs in errors of human thought that developed before there was a full knowledge of planetary whole or awareness of the world as a whole system. This current world knowledge construct came into dominance as the world became globalized beginning in 1969 when the view of the Earth from space was first seen. Okay, so what he's saying here, before we have all joined in this unity awareness that we are all on one earth, there are different thought systems that develop, let's say in Asia or in Europe, in South America, North America. All of these different thought systems were created and localized, and he calls them provincial, that developed. And so now what he's indicating now is that now that we have a more connected, more awareness of the whole Earth system, we're getting more and more incorporated, and that is happening, let's say, like I was saying, with the internet. I'm being more exposed to Hinduism, Buddhists, and different types of thought systems that reflect other type of thought systems that I am familiar with. And so we are all coming together and evolving all together at the same time. So anyways, the next paragraph is kind of long, so I am going to, well, let me read it real quick. I got 2 minutes. It is important to understand that the dominating system that created the view from space is so rooted in materialism that it creates even bigger problems than the provincialisms of the different spiritual traditions. And it furthers itself in conspiratorial and sinister ways through aiding and abetting the different sectarian conflicts of the traditional systems, like Hindu or Muslims or whatever it may be. There's a bigger root problem because this is a system that actually dominates and affects all of the belief systems of the world today. In other words, this materialistic belief system crowds into the other belief systems, which is very, very true. So anyways, my time is up. I hope